Yeah.
Kind of an emergency podcast here. You've covered, by the way, like 40 stories since we sat down at the beginning of June. So
it's been nonstop.
There's a lot to talk about. You're doing a great job with your show over on Ironclad. I don't know if that other stuff you can talk about yet in the future.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so we'll talk about that too. You have some cool stuff coming up that you're going to be doing. But you just broke a story that like stopped me in my tracks because
you clocked it right away.
Oh my God, it is. I mean, I'm used to seeing insanely sick shit with the cartel, even for the low lifes that they are. This is a whole nother level. So let's just start at the beginning.
Yeah.
The basis of what the story is and how you found out and what you found out since.
Okay, this is by far the worst story I've ever covered. So basically, I got in contact with a Mexican law enforcement source who told me basically right off the bat that women, young, vulnerable women in Juarez, Mexico, which is right there along the El Paso border, are being kidnapped towards the end of their pregnancies, held at like a trap house, essentially, and then their babies are being taken out of them by like rudimentary cesarean section by what is believed to be a certified OBGYN who's performing these operations to then sell these infants to Americans in El Paso.
Do the Americans know what they're buying? So
this is the problem, right? Because when I got this information, and it was from a very reputable source, and I corroborated before I even put the story out there, because when I got this and I saw the images and I was reading all the details and listening to all the details, I was like, holy this is the worst thing that I've ever heard. And like we see cartel violence and I'm covering it constantly, but this was a new low. And so when I got all the information, my first question was, who are the buyers? And do they know what's happening and why are they buying these kids? Like, is it illegal adoption? Is it human trafficking? How much are they buying the babies for? And do they know that these babies are being taken from the mothers in cold blood?
Buying babies at the beginning, regardless of what the fuck are you doing?
Well, here's the thing. If it's illegal adoption, okay, let's say ideally that the buyers are people who are dying to be parents and they are under the impression that they're going through some private small adoption firm based out of Mexico. I don't believe this to be the case. Stefano at All Source News, him and I sort of made a bet because he believes that this is the case. Mm-hmm. I don't think so.
No shot.
But let's say in an ideal world, that's what's happening, is that these are parents who are like, oh, we've secured a baby. We want to build a family. First of all, I think if you are getting a baby like through illegal, like if you believe that this is legitimate, you should not be a parent in the first place, because
Agreed.
How demented do you have
Agreed.
to be to not see through this? Second of all, even if you have a fishy feeling that maybe something is up, again, you should not be a parent, because how selfish can you be to take a baby from a woman who died because she was kidnapped for this baby? So what I've been told is that CJNG is running this operation.
For people out there who aren't familiar.
Jalisco New Generation Cartel, mm-hmm. which is the most expansionist and powerful cartel and violent cartel in all of Mexico. And I would say in Mexican cartel history, like these guys have managed to absorb power at a rate that we've never really seen before, to be honest. And since their uprising, they have shown and proven just how violent they can be, even towards innocent people. There doesn't seem to really be a code. And when I've done a lot of reporting on CJNG, and I've always spoken about how they're very powerful, they're very violent, and they're very intelligent. And the leadership seems to be very intelligent because they know how to absorb cartels or smaller mafias and gangs within Mexico, or like make an alliance like they did with the Chapitos recently.
Define absorb, by the way, like outside of making alliances, like what else could that mean?
Basically, you go into a region where maybe the resources for the local cartel or mafia or gang aren't super strong. you tell them, we're going to put our guys in. You guys are still going to make money. But essentially, this is CJNG territory. You guys can use our name, which a lot of these smaller mafias and gangs like to do because it gives them kind of like a backbone. Yeah, it gives them power. So it's like, we're 4 letters. We're CJNG now, even if they're not technically CJNG. But that's how the absorption kind of starts, right? And so I'm being told that this is run by CJNG. And like I was saying, I've always, in my reporting, talked about how powerful they are and their power dynamic in Mexico. But I never really got into the nitty-gritty of just how evil this cartel is. That's for a multitude of reasons. The first one being because I don't want to get murdered by them, and they don't seem to have a code of ethics. Like, women are dying. I mean, you guys laugh, but let's talk about mob history. It used to be like no women and kids, right?
This is a whole. This isn't mob. This is demented
terrorism.
I think it's like beyond that. Even they're a business too. Like it's like
a Fortune 500.
I don't know what's worse, but you know what I mean. Like it's sick. They're sending fentanyl across the border to us. They're apparently doing whatever it's just
the
like
babies. Okay, so this is another thing, right? If we compare it to fentanyl, when I interview cartel members and when we talk about this, a lot of them believe and say, well, I'm not directly killing these Americans who are using fentanyl. I'm just providing a product that there's an insatiable appetite for. In this case, they don't have that excuse. Like, you are literally holding a woman captive. And keep in mind, I'm told that these victims, now this has only been going on for a couple months, only, as in like, you know, but that's horrible that it's already been going on for that long. There's dozens of victims. I'm told it's less than 100.
How do you know this?
Because I was told by a source in law enforcement.
So they knew. The better question is,
there's an investigation going on.
It was only a couple months ago. How did they know it wasn't happening before that?
Because that's when this got flagged. And it appears as though these babies are being taken across the border with fraudulent paperwork. And so this is how authorities sort of became aware of it. The crazy part is they didn't become aware of it because, pregnant women are going missing and turning up dead. You would think that that should be enough of a motive to launch an investigation. Unfortunately, in Juarez, there's been a crisis of missing and murdered women since the 1990s. I think it started in like 1993 was like the first like big headlining case of a young woman who turned up dead. And over the course of the last couple decades, it's been like, is there a serial killer or serial killers in Juarez? Or why is the femicide so bad? And I know people get triggered when I say femicide, but it's like, if innocent women are being killed simply on the basis that they're a woman or that they're pregnant, you can take the baby. That is femicide. Like,
of course.
Get wrecked.
Of course.
So, and it's vulnerable. Like, you're telling me that a 17-year-old pregnant girl is going to be able to defend herself against a couple armed guys who come up and are like, you're going to give us your baby? Come on. So that's basically crazy. This operation is full-fledged, and it's CJNG, and they're obviously working with elements of La Línea or the Juarez cartel.
Do we know what kind of money is exchanging hands? Or
it's like in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, because essentially these babies are making up for the gap of the lack of drug and human smuggling from Mexico into the United States.
Because the border's more secure now?
Yes.
But now we can get babies across the border.
So this is a thing that I want to bring up because I think it's really critical to talk about the fact that everyone is so concerned about securing the border. And obviously I've talked about that in my reporting too. But this is where the whole argument comes in of, well, what if we just decriminalize drugs or, you know, we just secure the border, it stops. These guys will always find a way to make money. And when this administration first was like, we're going to lock down on the border, I was under the impression that extortion would go up, crude oil theft, trafficking would go up, and also the agricultural that we've talked about, right? I was not expecting this to be the way that they were going to fill that financial gap.
You said hundreds of thousands of dollars per
baby.
So these
Americans are not, they're well off. And that's why it's very hard for me to believe that these people do not know
where it's coming from.
And, I feel bad that, okay, so I reported this story with the bare bones information that I had, okay?
What's your reaction when you get that phone call? Are you like, F you, no way, at first?
At first, yeah, I didn't believe it. Well, it's not that I didn't believe it. At first, I was like, I'm on the fence. Because that's typically how I am when I get these types of tips, especially because there's a lot of bullshit that people will try to send my way. And I'm at a point now where I typically can weed out the bullshit pretty quick. And so when I first got it, I was like, I don't know. And then I talked to multiple sources who could corroborate this. And everyone was like, yeah, this is happening. And
I obviously don't give away your sources, but like, are you getting people that are on the ground in Juarez? Are you getting other law enforcement officials? How are you triangulating that without revealing?
Yeah, I don't want to say that because I really can't reveal this source whatsoever. It goes really high up.
Okay.
On both sides of the border. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay, that's good.
Because, and why, right? And I know that people are going to ask this because then people always say, like, your sources, trust me, bro. Here's the thing. With this type of coverage, there are real life implications, okay? This is a real investigation. These are real young women who are dying and real infants who are being trafficked. So, yeah, I'm a journalist, but I'm also human. So at the end of the day, I want to see justice for these women and I want to see an end to this. So I won't say anything if that means compromising the investigation, even if that means that, maybe the audience will trust me more. I can reveal more information. I don't care because I don't want this to happen.
That's how you gotta be.
In this type of coverage, it's very sensitive because, like you said, when I get this tip, at first it's like, okay, let me really look into it. Once I corroborated it with the people that I did, I was like, I was very sad, honestly, because I always put myself in the position of these women. And you and I have actually talked about this on the first episode when I covered things like this. It's like you think of it like being in that type of position and knowing that you can't get out. And you're going to meet a death and there's literally no escape and you're going through whatever torture you're going through. And I cannot fathom what that would feel like. And then on top of that, being pregnant and being so young. It's like, from what I've heard, when you're pregnant, you're like mother bear mode, right? Like you have to protect, it's biological. And so imagine being held captive for your unborn baby. And knowing like there is nothing you can do about it. And then being in Juarez where no one is coming to look for you. And then on top of that, knowing that after all is said and done, there may not even be an investigation into what happened to you or where your baby ends up.
Have any obviously this is a new racket, as you've pointed out.
It is, yeah.
These are obviously very poor women who are being targeted,
they're all
right?
from poor neighborhoods and they all come from low socioeconomic backgrounds.
So have any families of victims made any attempts?
No. And I didn't expect them to, and they won't. There's a major fear of retaliation. And there's also just a lack of even understanding of how to go about this. Imagine growing up in an environment where you are so used to seeing injustices and then something this severe happens to you. I think that a lot of these people are just completely disincentivized from even trying to seek justice because they know that if anything, it will just result in further injustice. Like you see these mothers who go looking for their missing children and then they end up dead. Then what? And then no one's investigating them. Now you have 2 dead or missing people and no one to look for them. So, and then if you're coming from a low socioeconomic background, and when we're talking about poor, like I don't know if that's politically correct, I don't care. When we're talking about poor here, like these women are like They do not have anything, which is why they are the perfect targets for this.
Yeah, of course.
Because
and they're young.
They're young. A lot of them, I'm under the impression that a lot of them are like single mothers, right? So like they're pregnant. There's no like father figure in that picture.
I wonder, maybe I'm totally off base here, and I don't even know if you would have any access to be able to even get this information.
Yeah.
I wonder if some of these girls are getting pregnant at the hands of guys who are in the cartel. And then they're like, oh, I don't want this kid.
No. So actually one of my questions was, are these girls like going out with the people who are running this operation? And also, are some of these girls saying, I'll give you my baby for money, and they don't know that they're going to die, right? That doesn't appear to be the case.
On what? How were you able to rule that out? If you can't answer that, no problem.
It's part of the investigation that these women are being kidnapped against their will. The babies are being taken against their will, and the women are ending up dead and their bodies dumped with literally, this is so graphic. And this is what killed me. Like,
we have to tell these stories because people need to understand what is happening here.
They're literally being dumped, like completely cut open. So the way that the babies are being removed, the babies are surviving. And of course, because the babies are the product here in this operation, right? So there's an OBGYN, but there is no medical care for the mother, obviously, because I think also the goal is to kill her. But it's so rudimentary, the way that they're performing these surgeries.
And a pro's doing it, but it's still rudimentary.
Oh, because it's like, hurry the fuck up, get the baby out, make sure the baby's alive, and we're going to kill her anyways. So if you really, like, if we're thinking about this, like, really black and white, that woman is, like, the vessel for the product. It doesn't matter that when their bodies are found, their guts are literally hanging out, and it's just, like, battered, and they're being found, like, fully naked, just completely.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, and I wish that I hadn't. It's like that where I don't know, it's different. I've seen a lot of violence, right? You see all the time, and being in Mexico, you see like bodies hanging, murdered bodies, and a lot of time men, or like women who were shot. But this is so different.
Yeah.
This is so evil. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before.
I don't really have
because it's a perfect victim. That's what
perfect victim.
Yeah, like I've talked about this before. Like in the case of like Valeria Marquez, you know that TikToker who was shot on TikTok Live.
Yes.
And she was allegedly dating the guy who was a plaza boss for CJNG. Yeah. Now, a lot of people were like, well, that's what she gets for following the money and dating like a criminal. So, in my opinion, I believe that people don't have to be perfect victims in order for us to have sympathy or compassion for what happened to them and that they don't deserve that, right?
Yeah.
But in that case, she had ties to a criminal life and there was a possibility that something could have happened to her. For these women, not the case.
Right.
Like they are simply existing, probably working a regular job, trying to get by, trying to help their families, fell pregnant, maybe like lack of sexual health education, or just, being in whatever relationship. We know how it works, pregnancy in poor communities, it's a thing. And then ending up in this situation. Like that's a perfect victim. So then when I'm seeing that and thinking just how helpless this girl thought, and most of them are younger than me.
Yeah, you've been talking about like 17 years
17, 19, 20, 21. That I can't imagine, like if I think back at my 17-year-old self in my brain, first of all being pregnant, but being in a scenario where it's like I'm trapped in some place with some unknown men and I know they're going to kill me and I'm freaking pregnant and what are they going to do with my baby? What are they going to do to me? I cannot even imagine what that would be like.
Can we pull up, Joe, just a map of Juarez so people can also get bearings with where we're talking about? Have you been able to get information on where
the bodies are being done?
Well, I want to come back to that, but where specifically they're crossing the border?
It seems to be just through the regular border crossing from Juarez to El Paso. And so they have a team, or there are people part of this ring conducting this operation who are creating fraudulent documentation. So health records for the baby, adoption paperwork.
And they're just driving them across.
Yeah.
In suits.
I don't know exactly like how. But think of this, right? Human trafficking is one of the hardest, like, trafficking humans is one of the hardest things you could do. So there you go. That's Chihuahua.
Yeah, Joe has the map.
And Ciudad Juarez is right there, right under El Paso.
West Texas, and I guess that's New Mexico up there, right?
Mm-hmm. Anapra.
Okay. And how big is that's a pretty big area. That's a few hundred miles, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of, like, obviously desert, like, and barren land where they find a lot of clandestine graves.
Oh yeah.
It's honestly like the perfect, and it's a border town, and you know how that goes.
So are they? Sorry, we're jumping around.
Yeah, let me go back to finish that thought. So if you think about trafficking or smuggling, right? Humans is one of the most difficult things that you could possibly smuggle or traffic, because you have an identity, you have people who know you. Like there are so many components to. Yeah, they're living. It's completely different than trafficking a kidney or trafficking 20 kilos of cocaine.
Yeah.
Easy.
In a coffee box.
Yeah. But a human is different. Now, think of an infant who's just born, the mother is not there, and it requires constant care, and in some cases probably medical care. And
you're crying all the time too, you know?
Well, I have a feeling that they're sedating the babies.
Come on.
How the fuck else? Yeah. Do you think
is that even healthy to do to them at all?
Buddy, you're asking about, like, if this is healthy. Think about the operation that we're talking.
I understand that, but I would think half of them might over sedate. They might not even make it.
I think they're being super careful because this is the product.
I'm glad they're being careful about that. Oh my God.
Sorry. You guys know we're not laughing because it's funny. It's so fucked up.
It's just fucked up.
So I think, a lot of what they're doing to make their operation easier is probably not healthy or safe, but I think that they're doing what needs to be done in order for this baby to survive. At least survive until it gets into the hands of the buyer. Who, by the way, like, it doesn't seem like there is much attention on who are the buyers. And that's my first question, and that's what I want to know. And I'm sure that anyone watching, that's what we want to know. Because what differentiates this from any other cartel problem we talked about? Now, Americans are implicated. This is not just a Mexico problem. These are Americans who are fully implicated in cartel and funding cartel operations.
This almost seems, maybe I'm definitely thinking this way too oversimplified. So let's bring it back to reality when I say this. But, like, yeah, they're making fake documentation for these kids and stuff. But can't you run like some data tracking set just to see, like, who was born in a U.S. hospital, and then suddenly if you see a family of means that has a child that's unaccounted for from a U.S. hospital, is that enough without violating constitutional rights to conduct an investigation?
So that's what we're all trying to figure out, because also there has to be some sort of legitimate adoption paperwork on the American side, right? Yeah. So how is that happening? But again, and this is why I'm sorry, like I'm giving bare bones on this, but had to break this because we know it's happening. The ins and outs of exactly how the operation is happening, again, I have bare bones with that. And of course, that's because it's an ongoing investigation and it's fairly new and it's really fucking tragic. So that's what I want to figure out. Who on the American side is implicated? How are these infants ending up there? Now, put the illegal adoption aspect to the side, right? If this is human trafficking, which I believe it is, then the paperwork doesn't have to go that far up the pipeline.
Why not?
Because these kids are not, well, first of all, this has only been going on for so long, so we can't even talk about, like, if they're going to school or whatever like that, right? But if they're being put into the hands of criminals who are going to use them for sex trafficking or...
Oh, well, yeah, in that case.
Or, like, infant organ harvesting.
Oh.
I know. It sounds fake. Like
No, it doesn't. That's the worst part. It doesn't sound fake at all.
I wish it did.
Infant organ harvesting.
This is what kills me because the story is about babies.
You know, my friend Remy Adeleke had him on the podcast back in July 2023. I think I put those out in September 2023. But he's a Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL, who's done a lot of work around the world on human trafficking, and he's also an actor and director. And he made a movie called Can we Google this? Remy Adeleke, The Human Trafficking movie, The Unexpected, and it shows a backward chain of how organ harvesting happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes you from some wealthy couple, you know, at some hospital in Mexico with a doctor coming out and saying, your son took the heart, he's going to be okay. And they're like, oh, thank God. And it takes you all the way back to the beginning, to the person that came from. And I say this because, not that this makes it any better, but it was a full-blown adult who was taken, in this case, like it was a Yazidi from the war zone. He was telling the story as things really happened, like when they were part of a genocide back in the days when ISIS was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you're talking about that same thing, and I'm picturing all the scenes that he showed in graphic detail, which is important that he showed it in the movie. It's hard to watch, but people can watch on YouTube. You should. You know, and I'm thinking about that now with an infant, and somehow it makes it that much worse.
Worse, I know. It's because it's just like a complete innocent being.
Yeah, it's got no...
completely defenseless. So it's like human nature to care for that, not do all of this. Yeah, this is the worst story, and I'm still digging for it. So I'm going to Juarez this week. We'll have been there by the time this goes out.
This is not coming out before. Are you worried about going there, considering that you've publicly talked about this story now?
Yeah, and actually last night, the structure of security, the police force, and sort of local government in Juarez shifted. Some people were let go, people who were very honest, and actually, like, if I had a problem, I likely could have called and said, hey, you know, there's a problem, and they would have helped me out. That doesn't exist anymore.
Sorry, we just had one thing in there that couldn't be on camera, so we're back to what you were saying. What I was going to be asking you was, why aren't, obviously those people were just let go yesterday, but before then, where were they on this investigation? Like, if they're people
investigating it.
Okay, so meaning, all right, this gives me some hope in humanity, even though they just got let go. There are, within the police force, government, whatever, within Juarez,
diplomatic security, yes.
There are some people who really do care and are trying,
yes,
maybe they're
to
not your
dismantle
source,
this.
but they're trying to stop this.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think they were let go because they were starting to uncover this?
100%. They got too close. I think that this was kind of, it was brewing to get to this point for about 2 years, and then it kind of came to a head. But I also want to clarify that no one that was like let go and all of this was anywhere near the source of information that I got this from. Just want to clarify that because I feel like people might think, oh, but I think that these individuals were doing their job properly and got too close to something. I don't actually know if it was like this very story, but it could be. But it's like separate.
Yeah, no, I got you. I understand. And you also got to be careful, like.
But these guys actually like weren't my sources, so I'm just trying to like make that clear because then I don't want to see retaliation where it doesn't belong either.
Right. Have you heard from people, I don't know, connected to the situation, or have even heard things that you're on the radar of like CJNG or people there where they're like, we don't like what this girl's reporting?
No, I haven't heard of that yet. But as I was saying, that could change. Hopefully it doesn't. But because my reporting was very much like talking about the internal structure and how powerful they are, I don't think they at any point would see me as a threat because in public, I was kind of flaunting the muscles for them, flexing the muscles for them, right? Like telling people, this is the most powerful cartel.
Right.
This is the most violent cartel. They want people to know that.
Yeah.
But now this does not paint anyone. This story doesn't paint anyone in a positive light, obviously. And so this is the type of story that journalists could get flack from. Hopefully I'm exempt from that.
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll figure that out. But at the end of the day, I think that anyone who is part of this operation would inherently know that it's wrong, and I would hope so. I don't know. I can't comprehend it because there's truly no amount of money that could possibly ever make me understand like how you would do this.
I can't believe though. I understand that
Like the drug trafficking, like drug trafficking is very lucrative. I get it. Okay. Honestly, I get it. And I've seen videos of, I've seen $200 million in cash and oh my God, and we're bawling out. And it's like, all right, I get it. You want to be rich. This is so different than that.
What I can't believe, this is what's not clocking to me. I understand that business ain't a booming like it was like during the Biden years where, you could walk across the border and have a burger with the patrol while you're dealing drugs. I get it that it's not like that. But we are talking about transnational organizations that still are moving significant drugs around the world and into the United States still through other means, not even just through the border. Maybe their profits are down 5-10% or something, big whoop, over the last 7 months. They're that desperate because of that little of a lot, like a bad quarter,
But see,
that they're going to start moving infants that they cut out of women to make a few hundred. Maybe it's just because I'm a normal human being. I don't understand why that's the first thing they're going to. It's also the highest risk business, and you want to talk about something that if the cat gets out of the bag too much with the American public, that is the kind of thing that could lead to people in the American public being like, bomb the whole country. You know what I mean? And do shit like that.
well, when I posted this story, that was the response that I got. And especially because of all the rhetoric that's been going on lately, and it's like my most asked question, like, should the U.S. invade Mexico? And I'm always like, no. But this is exactly the type of thing where it pushes that type of agenda. But which is why I think it's so important to keep mentioning the American part in this, like the role that Americans are playing here, because they are the buyers.
Right.
And it's different than drugs,
Yep.
okay? Because it's different than drugs.
You're addicted to something with drugs. It's different.
And you are, okay, you're buying drugs, you're injecting yourself, or you're smoking the shit.
Yep.
Okay, you are buying the baby a woman was, like, it's a fucking shit show. It is so different. And I think people will understand that. I don't really have to, like,
of course,
hone in on that. I think it's anyone with half a brain would understand that. But I also think that there could be perhaps a power play here too.
Sure.
Where, yeah, they're filling some gap of monetary loss, but also someone who's part of this ring managed to put this whole operation together. And now look, put me in as your big dog because look at what I got going on. And that's typically how it works in the hierarchy of cartels, particularly in CJNG. Right. When you're proving that you can traffic like a boss or like make a bunch of money, and you're not getting caught for whatever you're doing, that's how you move up in the hierarchy of the cartel.
This is one thing, though, that even if you look at the most cynical aspects of the history of this, where, for example, you have intelligence that's been involved in these organizations. I've had people sitting in that seat who had to go inside the cartels and allow them to continue to do business. This is one of those hardcore red lines, though.
Yeah, 100%.
That, like, I swear to God, if I found out that, I don't know, some fucking CIA idiot knew this was going on and was letting this happen.
Yeah, because this is not like, oh, you know, getting the arms to the Contras and moving the cocaine, and this is so different. But I don't know if that's.
I'm totally, obviously there's no proof of that at this point, but I'm saying, like, if I ever found that out, all the people out there who are like dismantle these places, I'm like, well, there's your argument. Like, how could you ever? And I'm not, again, hopefully they're not, but like, there just has to be a line somewhere. I'm sorry. That's just, it's just like, this one just made me so sick. It's just made me so sick. I don't know how you can even cover this, because like, you have to see it too.
Yeah,
you're
I hate it.
You're going down there, you're talking to these people, like, makes me sick from my armchair up here.
It's definitely not ideal, but when I got the tip too, I was kind of told, like, you do a good job at covering missing and murdered women. Like, your reporting serves justice for like women and kids. And we talked about this, like, that's the goal here. That's what got me into it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I always say this, but I choose to do this, so it doesn't matter how it affects me, because at the end of the day, what these women are going through is 100 million times worse than me just seeing it and reporting on it and maybe being in a risky environment to gather the elements of the story. But they deserve a voice, and they deserve people to fight for justice for them. And if I can in some way be the messenger to ensure that the people who need to take the action start to take that action, great. That's the goal. And I know that you always kind of met me about, like, well, Karen, you need to, like, value your life. Don't die. Be careful. Yes, I know that. But at the same time, look at what the fuck is going on. And if I don't talk about it, and it means, okay, I'm going to be in danger if I have to, you know, in order to do this, so what?
Well, it's very brave of you, but also...
No, it's not. It's just very human. I think that most people would do the same thing. I just go and do it.
I don't think most people would do the same thing. Just
no,
to be very
I
clear
think
with
people
you.
do agree, though, if they had the capacity, whether that's like mental, physical, whatever it is, and a low fear threshold in order to try to help this matter, they would.
Hey guys, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It's a huge, huge help. Thank you.
I think you're giving a lot of people credit that I hope they could live up to, but I'm not sure if they would, because you go down into the belly of the beast with it. And that, you know, like you mentioned going down there now, I mean, you said it, not me, but you are going down there, and
it's not safe right now.
It's not safe. The people that you said you could call within law enforcement at Juarez just all got fucking, you know, Night of the Long Knives down there. What kind of, without revealing security details or something like that, but like, are you taking some security precautions?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't, this is not something that I would, for lack of better words, raw dog, like I have with previous assignments, where I just like go into the belly of the beast and I'm like, hope for the best. My mom protects me from above. But, and like, oh, you know, I'll be in at this time and I should be out at this time. If not, call this number to whoever, right? But this is a situation where, because the stakes are so high in terms of the story, and it's a very dangerous region, yeah, I'm taking security precautions. Good. The whole team, like, it's very much...
Oh, you're going down with a team too? Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
we're not doing this alone anymore.
Good.
We can't. And that's also partly thanks to you, because... You know, there's more exposure now, so I can't just go like incognito anymore, because the people who are in these regions, who may be involved in it or who know about it, they watch my shit. So I don't want to take that risk, because also, like, another thing, and when we talk about the valuing the life, like, then if I die or something happens to me, then I can't do the job.
Right.
So that defeats the whole purpose.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, you're doing, and you and I were talking off camera in generalizations about stuff. so I think this is okay to say, but like,
Yeah.
you're doing a great job, and that's awesome. And like, even since the first time you were here, we recorded for the first time in October 2024. We put it out in January, but that was almost a year ago now. Like, you've come such a long way with the scope of things you're reporting on, and the sourcing and the level and the types of stories,
Yeah.
obviously, that you're breaking, which is amazing.
Thanks.
But like, you are, and I'm sure you already have, but you are going to run into situations sometimes where perhaps because of your hard work, you get access to some,
to shit that I wish I didn't know.
of course, and sometimes, as much as it might be like the biggest story ever, and it could also even help some people, it's the kind of thing where you have to make some long-term calls, not just for your own ability to still be alive and report on things that matter like you are right now, but also for, you know, sometimes you report on things, and I'll just use an old example, like El Chapo. He gets reported on, then he gets caught. And it's like, oh, El Chapo's gone. Well, now you made a fucking power vacuum, and it's a fucking mess.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, and that's the shitty reality. It's like, we're not dealing with a situation where the biggest story you look at is like, oh, I can cut off the head of the snake. There's fucking 40 heads to the snake.
Yeah, it's a
So
hydra.
what I'm saying is a long-winded way of saying, like, you're in a tough position where once in a while you may have to like say, hey, if I wanted to like poke the bear on this thing, I could, but I'm going to pass on this because it's better to live another day and actually like kill the other 10 bears over here with stories that I'll be alive to tell. You see what I'm
And
saying?
I fully agree, because there are things, and we've talked about this, that I've held off on reporting.
Yes.
And if, truth be told, if I had reported on some of those things that I held off on, and something happened to me because of it, then I wouldn't be able to report on this story
That's
where the
right.
stakes are really high and the collateral is really bad.
That's exactly right.
So this is so much more important, right? This is the mission, where it's, okay, I've received some information because I've managed to embed myself with the right people, and gain trust on all sides here. And now the public can be informed about what's going on, so that, like I said, the right people in power can do something to seek justice. Because that's the goal here, right? You have to tell the story for people to care, tell people why they should care. And I think that this is one of those stories, like, when I'm generally reporting on murdered women internationally, like, there's this level of empathy and compassion that we're getting from the American audience, because the majority of my audience is American.
Yeah.
But it's very fleeting. But then there will be like a case that, like this, that it really does tug on the heartstrings, because it's like, people now understand, even though this isn't happening in my backyard, like, as a human being, these are babies, these are young mothers, and these are American buyers.
Yeah, my backyard's buying it.
Yeah, my backyard is part of this operation, funding it. And so, to me, when I look at this story as a whole, of course, the people, like, evil villain number one is the ring that is running this operation and started this. Evil villain number two, the people buying it, buying the babies.
I agree.
And I just see, I hate having to like go into depth with stories like these, because then there ends up being some speculation. But I still, like, I don't get too in the weeds to impact my reporting at all.
What do you mean by that?
Like,
there's speculation with it.
Like, I start to think about what could be going on and stuff. But I think that because of the knowledge that I have in terms of like this whole realm of issues, I can, my intuition is pretty good. So I can understand like what could be the reality of this situation. I feel like I'm speaking in code to you right now.
No, it's fine. I understand.
So like, for example, in this case, I don't think that the buyers are unaware of where these babies are coming from. And I just can't like seem to hit that home enough, because I feel like there needs to be American eyes on this.
Yeah, if you're, especially once you told me what the pricing is here and everything, and the fact that there's pricing on it, if you're getting handed an infant from some dude in a suit and handing him $100,000 and the infant has fake paperwork, you know everything. Fuck you. Even if you don't know exactly, you know. It
doesn't
that this
take a
is
genius
fucked up.
to get like a weird feeling.
Yep. Your gut, there's no way. Even people with a room temperature IQ, like, you know. There's no way you don't. And that's what makes it sick.
That's why I have a hard time believing. And when I first broke this story, I talked about that this could be illegal adoption. This could be human trafficking. That my source said, some of these people receiving the babies may not know. Now, in my reporting, I went through all of that. But then when you sit with the story, like, your perception changes on a story, especially of this high stake, when you first break it versus when you sit with it and really start to think about it. And this is the kind of story that like keeps you up at night, right? You're just constantly like thinking about it and thinking what could be going on. And the more that I thought about it and continue to think about it, I'm just like, I don't think that these babies are going to a well-meaning family who wants to expand their family and has been like dying to have a baby and like went through any means possible. I mean, sure, I know that some of the high volume international countries that were like top providers of like international adoption for the US cracked down on their adoption laws. And so parents who want to adopt, it's become harder for them.
Yes.
But I just don't think that these are the people who are, I don't know.
So it's, and that makes it, if that is the case and that speculation is even mostly correct, it makes it a pure productized infant human trafficking operation that on the other end includes the worst things, whether it be organ harvesting like we talked about earlier, or even sick or twisted shit like that, to where these children probably don't even live past infancy, and those that do wish they wouldn't. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's only been going on for a few months, so it's hard to know like how long these babies are surviving after.
Do you have plans to try, when you are down in Juarez, any leads even to try to privately get a hold of potentially family of potential victims of this?
Yeah, but if it means putting them in danger, I won't do it.
You won't do it.
Even if it's like, oh, this really added to the story and it really gave context, I won't do that. Because imagine, like, you've already been through enough.
Yeah, 100. I don't blame those people at all. They're in a situation where anyone apparently in the government that would have helped them is now gone.
Yeah.
And that's a sign to them being told shut the fuck up if they didn't already know that already. They live in a country that's war torn apart by these cartels and effectively run by them at every level. And they have no economic means. They've already had one victim in the family. Like, if the average family is another 5 people, are they like, well, all 5 of us want to die too? I mean, it's people out there like, oh, how can you say something? Dude, put yourself in their shoes. It's not.
See, with this type of story, unless someone seeks me out and wants to talk, I won't push for it. Yeah. Because also, I don't like, and a lot of journalists disagree with this and don't operate the same way. I don't care. I don't like having to convince someone, especially someone who's been a victim, to interview with me or to give the story. I don't think it's ethical.
You don't think it's ethical?
No. Because you're already, you're kind of, and I can be very like convincing with some people. It's like, come on, just tell me, or let's talk, or we can talk. But I don't want to do that to someone who is already like in a vulnerable position, and then it could make life worse for them. I've learned like a very good lesson with this type of thing over the course of the last few years, which is like, how do I say it? Like, even if you think that you can have a positive impact with whatever you're doing or whoever you're talking to, you still have to consider that it could have a negative impact.
That's right.
And if that outweighs the potential positive impact, it's better off just to stay out of it.
Where it gets weird, where it gets really weird from like an ethical perspective, if we're talking about this, is like, I can't even imagine having to answer this question if I were you, but like trade-offs in that position, meaning, okay, if I talk to this family of the victim or whatever, I hate that we have to talk like this, but just bear with me. There's an X% chance that something really bad could happen to them as a result of them talking. But if I do it, there's a Y% chance that this story blows the fuck up. Forget if that helps my career or not. I'm not talking about it for that. I'm saying
for like the actual understanding.
And
public.
then potentially it saves a Z number of future victims, which is a large number, and puts a cap on this. It's like,
no, the former still outweighs it, because I was taught by like a journalist that I highly respect, if it impacts the person's livelihood or life, don't do it.
Can't.
And
tough for me to argue with that.
I'll stand my ground on that. With a criminal or a politician, will I be like, come on, tell me? Or
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's different.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck them.
But if it's like a... But in this case, if it means that their livelihood or their life is at risk, I won't do it, even if it means like, oh, saving other people. I'm not going to get someone to play Jesus here. Like, this is not... No, we're not doing that. I would never want to put someone in that position, because I don't want something bad to happen to them. Second of all, selfishly, yeah, mm-hmm. I would feel fucking horrible forever and ever, and would not be able to live with that if that happened. There's just no way. Even if it meant like, oh, well, we saved 20 pregnant women.
You're going to think about the one.
100%. Because that was like completely my fault. So I would just never do that in the first place. I don't think it's ethical at all.
Are you, well...
That's why I actually don't like when some journalists will like go into these types of hostile environments and pay these types of people to talk to them. I've never paid for interviews because, first of all, I don't want people to be like working, like putting on a show. And second of all, I think that for a lot of these people, yes, money is a very appetizing incentive. Like, it's something that they need. And I think that that's a bit exploitative on the journalist side. I would never do that. It's like, if you're not going to talk to me for free because you want to get your story across, it's done. So yeah, could I probably go and find family members of these victims and try to convince them to talk with me, or hand them a couple bills and say, talk to me? They would probably do it. I actually have no doubt that they probably would. I would not do that.
What if you just, this is probably too simplistic to look at it, but if you made him an anonymous source, meaning you didn't say, like, I don't even know what effect that would have, though, if you couldn't say it's a family of a victim. You know what I mean?
Well, see, like with anonymous sources, these are people who still understand, like all the people that I've spoken to anonymously, they still understand that there's somewhat of a risk. And also, I have been very good at protecting these sources, right? But because this is such a vulnerable and like it's a victim, I wouldn't even want to take that chance with them. And also, when I'm talking to criminals or people within high levels of government who are giving me anonymous information, they're not going to go and be like, yeah, I talked to this journalist and told it, right? But these people might.
Yeah.
These people might trust the wrong person. And so it's not even about trust in myself at that point. It's, do I even trust you to protect yourself after we do this? I don't know. There's a lot of elements that go into it.
Yeah, there's heavy questions you got to ask at every layer of this. There's not like a moment where you're like, well, I can get...
Not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy.
Not even you, I would say that the different sources in the know who you speak with, are they concerned about a copycat syndrome happening here with other cartels?
Oh, I haven't even talked about that. Like, I have no idea. I don't think so. I would hope not, but I also didn't think that this would ever happen in the first place. But
yeah, I mean,
that's a good question.
This is one scenario
that
where
this becomes one of their means of.
I mean, that would be the worst case scenario. You would hope that this would be like the one scenario that
think
was
that's
like
why they're-
Al Qaeda with ISIS, where Al Qaeda was like, yo, we're not that bad. You know what I mean? Where like Sinaloa was like, all right, listen, we do fentanyl. We don't.
But we're not doing all of that.
We're not doing that. Like you would hope that this might be the one place it is, but unfortunately, all of these cartels have a track record of if it's like the quote, if it bleeds, it leads. Find another one where it says if it pays, it weighs, or whatever. Like they're gonna follow money, and if they see something like this making millions of dollars,
they're gonna follow suit.
Yeah.
I think that's why they're trying to nip this in the butt right now. Like the investigate, like it's there are people who are trying to put a stop to this
immediately
before it gets to that point. I would hope that it doesn't. But what the fuck do I know? I never thought that they'd be doing this in the first place.
Why? All right. This is going to get to some politicization or whatever here. But even though this is brand new, it is brandly sick on every level. Now that it is a story and clearly based on what you've been able to say publicly, what you've reported on publicly, and I'll say this, what I've heard from you privately, very clearly is unfortunately legit and has legs. Why hasn't, like, Trump, of all people, who's declared the cartels terror organizations, why has he not talked about this yet? Or is this even at his desk yet? I mean, I would think this would be like he'd be tweeting up a storm about this. This is the ultimate, like, do you see why we got to kill all these people? Kind of referring to the cartels, kind of moment. Like, why has that not happened? You reported this, what, a week and a half ago? Something like that?
This is brand new, right? I just broke this story, and I think that for a bit, this was pretty need to know. I would not be surprised if in the near future that there is the administration makes some comments about it, and they whether they know about it already or not, unclear. Can't speak to that.
Yeah.
But that's certainly going to be coming. And I think that the reaction is going to be really interesting because in an ideal world, what I hope to see is, all right, we're going to collaborate to dismantle this ring, and then we're going to go after the Americans who were funding this. Unfortunately, I have a bit of a feeling that there may not be a hard push on the American buyers. I just feel like for some reason...
Why do you feel that way?
I don't know. I feel like they might miss the mark a bit with that. And like, to preface, I'm always critical of like any, politicians or how policy is run. I just think that it would be like this massive upset. And maybe I'm just worried because also with these types of stories, I start to really think deeply and stuff like that. And I'm like, I hope that whoever is buying these babies also faces whatever
the firing squad to start
prosecution, from the U.S. administration.
Yep.
And I mean, at the same time, to be fair, there has been like somewhat of a crackdown on Americans who are profiting off of or funding the cartels. Like we saw it recently. I think we talked about this in the last episode that we shot together about that American family from Idaho who was buying the stolen crude oil. Yeah. So then boom, they're like facing justice system. Great.
That's oil though.
I know.
These are people.
Yes. And I mean, to me, these charges would look like aiding and abetting and like literally cooperating with a terrorist organization. Like if you are an American and you bought this baby, your court case should reflect exactly what you were doing.
100%. And if you are a part of an organization that's doing the trafficking, it's even on a whole another level, meaning on the American side here. Because I think it was Ed Calderon when he was in here. It was very broad. I want to try to, if I remember some of this incorrectly, people put it in the comments and I'll draw attention to it. But he was saying the largest black market in the United States is human trafficking, which includes everything. It includes, human trafficking is human trafficking, but, more low-level prostitution and things like that. But it also graduates all the way up to the sickest things like this, of which he was saying, he's like, why are we not talking about the fact that that stuff is way more rampant than we're comfortable talking about at dinner parties? Like, why are we not talking about that at law enforcement centers as much? Why are we not doing something about that? Because he's like, to your point as well, he's like, a lot of the people on the other ends of these say they're not from other countries. Sometimes they are, but they're like, a lot of times it's people that live in this country. Yes. And that are from here and were born here.
But also, this is a very scary topic. And you want to know what's funny? For the longest time, people asked me a lot, why don't you cover the human trafficking stuff? And I actually said for a really long time, I was like, I'm never going to cover human trafficking.
Why'd you say never?
Because I'm scared. It's scary. Like, it runs so high. There's always so many people involved. The operations are typically like very airtight, professional, and there's so much money involved that I was like, I'm worried that if I do something like this, that this is where I would face some sort of like violent retaliation, or like I would face threats. So when this story came to me, I was like, I guess never say never. Fuck.
Yeah. Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.